chosen one, heaven has already made a move. This is not a coincidence. You were meant to hear this now. Something important has been placed in front of you, yet it doesn't look significant. That's the danger. Most people would overlook it. But what if the thing you've been ignoring is the very thing God intends to use to change everything? Don't look away yet. The reason this matters is because heaven rarely wraps destiny in something obvious. Most people are waiting for a dramatic sign, a sudden breakthrough, a loud announcement, a visible miracle. But God often hides the greatest shifts inside the smallest moments, inside a conversation, inside a delay, inside an unexpected opportunity, inside a door you almost walked past. And that is why your spirit has been restless lately. You can feel that something is changing. You can sense movement beneath the surface. Yet nothing around you seems to explain what you are feeling. That feeling is not your imagination. It is the awareness that a divine transition has already begun. What makes this moment dangerous is that it does not look important enough. The opportunity appears ordinary. The instruction seems simple. The person seems insignificant. The timing feels inconvenient. And because of that, many people miss the very thing they prayed for. They reject the answer because it arrived in a form they did not expect. But heaven is saying, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention to what keeps returning. Pay attention to what keeps pulling at your spirit. Pay attention to the door that refuses to leave your mind. Because not everything that changes your life arrives with a warning label. Some blessings arrive disguised as interruptions. Some breakthroughs arrive disguised as inconveniences. Some answers arrive disguised as delays. And what you are standing in right now may be one of those moments. The enemy knows something you do not fully see yet. He knows what is connected to your next season. He knows what is hidden behind the door God is opening. That is why the distractions have intensified. That is why confusion has tried to cloud your thinking. That is why doubt has whispered, it doesn't matter. Because if you overlook this, you could walk past a divine appointment that was prepared specifically for you, not for someone else, for you. The battles you have been facing recently are not random. The resistance is revealing the value. The pressure is revealing the purpose. The warfare is revealing the importance of what is nearby. And the closer you get, the louder the distractions become. That is not coincidence, that is confirmation. There are things happening behind the scenes that your natural eyes cannot yet see. Conversations are taking place. Paths are being aligned, people are being positioned, pieces are moving. Heaven has been arranging details while you were wondering if anything was happening at all. If this message is speaking directly to your spirit, comment, "I will not miss it," as a declaration of faith. And if you believe God is revealing something important in this season, like this video and subscribe to Born into Light so you don't miss these prophetic messages. Because what comes next is where many people make a costly mistake. They assume that because something is small, it cannot be significant. But throughout history, God has always used what seemed small, a small instruction, a small act of obedience, a small step of faith, a small opportunity. And from those small beginnings came life-changing outcomes. What if the thing you are about to overlook is not small at all? What if it only appears small because you have not yet seen what it is connected to? That possibility should make you pause. Because there is a reason this message found you today, and there is a reason your spirit refuses to move on from it. Something is closer than it appears. Something has already entered your path. And the deeper truth behind it is only now beginning to reveal itself. The challenge is that heaven's instructions are not always comfortable. Sometimes they require you to slow down when everyone else is rushing. Sometimes they require you to stay when others are leaving. Sometimes they require you to release what feels familiar so you can receive what has been prepared. That is why discernment matters so much in this season. Not every opportunity is your opportunity. Not every voice deserves your attention. Not every path leads where God intends for you to go. Yet among all the noise, there is one thing that keeps surfacing, one thing that keeps returning, one thing that keeps tugging at your spirit. You have tried to ignore it. You have tried to explain it away. You have tried to convince yourself that it is nothing, but somehow it keeps appearing. Again, and again, and again, and again. That is not happening by accident. There are moments when heaven gently nudges. Then there are moments when heaven repeatedly places something before you because it carries a key to the next chapter. You have entered one of those moments. The reason you feel such tension is because two forces are pulling in opposite directions. One is pulling you toward purpose. The other is pulling you toward distraction. One is calling you toward. The other is trying to keep you where you are. And right now, the difference between those two directions may seem very small, almost invisible. But small decisions often create massive outcomes. A single act of obedience can redirect an entire future. A single moment of courage can unlock years of preparation. A single step of faith can open a door that human effort could never force open. What you are facing may look like a minor choice, but heaven sees much more than the surface. God sees where that road leads. God sees who you will become. God sees the connections, opportunities, and assignments waiting beyond what you can currently understand. That is why this message carries such urgency, because there are blessings that cannot be recognized through logic alone. They must be recognized through spiritual awareness. And your awareness is increasing. That uneasy feeling, that persistent thought, that quiet conviction. It is not there without reason. Something is being highlighted. Something is being illuminated. Something is being brought into focus. The enemy's strategy has been simple. Keep you looking everywhere except where God is pointing. Keep you focused on what has not happened. Keep you discouraged by delays. Keep you exhausted by battles. Keep you so occupied with the obvious that you miss the significant. But heaven is breaking that strategy right now. The fog is beginning to lift. The confusion is beginning to clear. The distractions are losing their power. And suddenly you are starting to notice details you missed before. You are starting to recognize patterns. You are starting to see connections. You are starting to understand why certain events unfolded the way they did. Because what looked random was never random. What looked delayed was never delayed. What looked disconnected was always connected. God has been weaving pieces together with precision. Even during the seasons when you felt forgotten. Even during the nights when you questioned everything. Even during the moments when silence seemed to be the only answer. He was working. He was arranging. He was preparing. And now you are approaching a point where preparation begins to meet manifestation. A point where hidden things begin to emerge. A point where what has been building behind the scenes starts becoming visible. That is why your spirit cannot afford to fall asleep right now. Stay alert, stay sensitive, stay attentive. Because heaven is not speaking through coincidence. Heaven is speaking through patterns, through confirmations, through repeated impressions, through unexpected alignments, through doors that keep appearing despite every attempt to ignore them. If you receive that, type "I am paying attention." Because there is another layer to this that most people never realize. The thing you are about to overlook may not only affect you, it may affect everyone connected to your assignment, everyone connected to your purpose, everyone connected to the future God designed for you. Which means the stakes are higher than they appear, much higher, and what heaven is about to reveal next makes that truth impossible to ignore. There are certain moments in life that look ordinary while you are living them. Only later do you realize they were turning points. Only later do you understand that everything changed because of one decision, one conversation, one act of obedience. One moment when you chose to listen instead of dismissing what God was showing you. You are closer to one of those moments than you realize. That is why the pressure has felt unusual. The enemy does not waste energy on what carries no significance. He targets what threatens his plans. He resists what carries kingdom impact. He attacks what has the potential to transform lives. And if the warfare around you has intensified, it may be because something valuable is within reach. Something powerful, something appointed, something that was prepared long before you ever saw this season approaching. For a long time you have been looking for evidence. Evidence that your waiting was not in vain. Evidence that your prayers were heard. Evidence that heaven had not forgotten your name. But what if the evidence is already around you? What if the signs are already appearing? What if God has been answering in ways that look too simple to recognize? That is where many people stumble. They expect the answer to match their imagination. But God's methods often defy expectations. The answer arrives differently. The blessing appears unexpectedly. The breakthrough emerges from a direction nobody anticipated. And because of that, people overlook what they prayed years to receive. Do not make that mistake. This season requires spiritual eyes, because some of the most important movements in your life are happening quietly, without announcements, without applause, without public recognition. While others are looking for dramatic displays, heaven is positioning pieces with incredible precision. A relationship, a connection, a new idea, a fresh perspective, a closed door that is actually protecting you, an unexpected delay that is actually redirecting you, a small opportunity that carries enormous potential. Nothing is random, nothing is wasted, nothing is random or without purpose. Even the disappointments that confused you, even the detours that frustrated you, even the seasons that seemed unfair. God has been weaving them together into something larger than you currently understand. That is why you cannot judge this season by appearances. Appearances are deceiving. What looks insignificant today may become the testimony you talk about for years. What looks inconvenient today may become the breakthrough you once begged heaven to send. And what looks small today may contain the seed of something extraordinary. The enemy hopes you will keep measuring everything by what you can immediately see, because if you only trust what is visible, you will miss what is developing beneath the surface. And beneath the surface, movement is accelerating. Doors are shifting, assignments are aligning, connections are forming, answers are approaching. The timing of God is beginning to intersect with the preparation He has been carrying out behind the scenes. You may not see the full picture yet, but pieces of it are beginning to emerge. That feeling you cannot explain, that nudge you cannot ignore, that repeated confirmation that keeps finding you. Those are not random emotions. They are signals. Signals that something is demanding your attention. Signals that heaven is highlighting a path. Signals that your next step matters more than you currently realize. Because there is a difference between being present and being aware. Many people are present when God moves. Very few are aware enough to recognize it. Many people witness opportunities. Very few discern their true value. Many people receive instructions. Very few understand what those instructions are connected to. The reason this message is finding you now is because heaven wants your awareness sharpened. Not tomorrow, not next month, now, because the window connected to this season will not remain open forever. There are moments that require action, moments that require faith, moments that require faith, moments that require attention. And when those moments arrive, hesitation can become costly. You have spent enough time questioning yourself, enough time doubting what God has been showing you, enough time allowing fear to talk louder than faith. This is a season to listen carefully, a season to observe closely, a season to stop dismissing the things that keep appearing in your path, because there is a reason they keep appearing, a reason they keep resurfacing, a reason your spirit keeps returning to them. And the more closely you look, the more you may discover that what seemed ordinary was carrying a hidden assignment all along. A hidden assignment connected to a breakthrough that is far larger than you first imagined. And once that assignment becomes clear, the events of the last several months will suddenly begin to make sense in a way you never expected. The questions that kept you awake at night, the prayers that seemed unanswered, the doors that unexpectedly closed, the people who suddenly disappeared from your life, the delays that tested your patience, the battles that exhausted your strength. None of it was meaningless. None of it was accidental. What felt like scattered pieces were actually part of a larger design, a design you could not fully see because you were standing too close to it. But now the picture is beginning to come into focus. And when God starts bringing clarity, things happen quickly, very quickly. What took years to prepare can shift in a moment. What took months to build can suddenly become visible. What remained hidden can emerge all at once. That is why you cannot allow discouragement to have the final word. Discouragement only sees what is missing. Faith sees what is forming. Discouragement focuses on the delay. Faith focuses on the promise. Discouragement says nothing is happening. Faith says something is moving even when I cannot see it. And right now, heaven is calling you into a higher level of faith. Not blind faith, not forced faith, but faith built upon the understanding that God has never lost control of your story. Not once, not during the confusion, not during the waiting, not during the mating, not during the setbacks, not during the moments when you felt completely alone. He was there, watching, guiding, positioning, protecting, preparing. There were things he prevented that you never knew about. Doors he kept closed for your protection. Paths he redirected for your benefit. People he removed because they could not go where he was taking you. You called it loss. He called it preparation. You called it disappointment. He called it alignment. You called it alignment. You called it delay. He called it timing. And now the difference between your perspective and heaven's perspective is becoming impossible to ignore. Because you are starting to notice something. The same themes keep appearing. The same confirmations keep returning. The same message keeps finding its way to you, again and again and again. God is not repeating himself because he has nothing to say. He is repeating himself because something is too important to miss, too important to overlook, too important to postpone. If you're still listening and standing in faith, type, "I trust God's timing" below. And if this message is strengthening your spirit, like this video and subscribe to Born into Light so more chosen ones can receive this encouragement. Because there is another reason the enemy has worked so hard to distract you. He knows that once you recognize what heaven is highlighting, your hesitation will begin to break, your confusion will begin to fade, your confidence will begin to rise. And confidence rooted in God's direction is dangerous to the enemy. A focused believer is dangerous. An obedient believer is dangerous. A believer who recognizes divine timing is dangerous. Because once you stop questioning every step, you begin moving with authority. You begin walking differently, speaking differently, expecting differently. You stop chasing what God never assigned to you, and you start pursuing what heaven has already prepared. That shift changes everything. It changes how you view setbacks. It changes how you view waiting. It changes how you view obstacles. Because suddenly you realize that not every obstacle was meant to stop you. Some obstacles were meant to position you. Some obstacles were meant to strengthen you. Some obstacles were meant to reveal what was truly important. And what is being revealed right now carries far more significance than you currently understand. The opportunity may seem small. The instruction may seem simple. The step may seem ordinary, but heaven is often hidden inside ordinary things. That is why spiritual awareness matters so much in this hour. Because the next chapter of your journey may begin with something most people would completely overlook, something they would dismiss, something they would walk past, something they would never stop long enough to recognize. But you are being warned. You are being prepared. You are being awakened. And the more awake you become, the more clearly you will see that God has been leaving signs throughout this entire season, signs that point toward a breakthrough, signs that point toward an assignment, signs that point toward a shift that is already beginning. A shift that may arrive sooner than you think. A shift that may emerge from a place you least expect. a shift connected to something that is already sitting closer to you than you realize. And when that final piece falls into place, you will understand why heaven kept drawing your attention back to it over and over again. You will look back and realize that the signs were there all along, not hidden, not absent, just overlooked. What seemed ordinary was carrying extraordinary weight. What seemed small was connected to something much larger. What seemed unrelated was actually tied directly to your next season. This is why spiritual maturity requires patience, because God often reveals his plans in layers, one layer at a time, one piece at a time, one revelation at a time. If he showed you everything at once, the weight of it would overwhelm you. So instead, he gives you enough light for the next step, then another step, then another, and with each act of obedience, more becomes visible. That is exactly where many chosen ones are right now, standing between what they know and what is about to be revealed, standing between preparation and manifestation, standing between preparation and fulfillment. It is an uncomfortable place, a place where you can sense movement but cannot yet explain it, a place where your spirit feels certain while your circumstances remain unclear, a place where heaven is speaking but not everyone around you can hear what you hear. That isolation has been difficult. There have been moments when you questioned yourself, moments when you wondered if you were imagining things, moments when you almost convinced yourself to stop paying attention. But every time you tried to dismiss it, the feeling returned. The conviction returned. The awareness returned. Because God was not allowing you to forget what he was highlighting. There are people who can walk away from divine opportunities without noticing. But when heaven has marked something for your attention, your spirit keeps circling back, not because you are obsessed, not because you are overthinking, but because there is something there that requires discernment. Something there that deserves another look. Something there that carries more significance than your natural eyes can currently measure. The enemy understands this principle very well. That is why he rarely tries to destroy destiny all at once. Most of the time, he simply tries to divert attention. A little distraction here, a little discouragement there, a little discouragement there, a little fear, a little delay, just enough to keep you from recognizing what is standing directly in front of you. Because recognition changes everything. The moment Joseph recognized his assignment, his path changed. The moment David recognized his opportunity, history shifted. The moment Esther recognized her purpose, an entire nation was impacted. The assignment was always there. The opportunity was always there. The purpose was always there. The purpose was always there. But there came a moment when recognition activated action, and action activated destiny. That is why this season is not just about seeing, it is about recognizing. There is a difference. Many people see opportunities. Few recognize their value. Many people hear instructions. Few recognize their importance. Many people encounter divine moments. Few recognize them while they are happening. And heaven is sharpening your recognition. You are being trained to notice what others miss, to discern what others dismiss, to perceive what others overlook. Because where God is taking you, casual awareness will not be enough. You will need spiritual sensitivity. You will need discernment. You will need the ability to hear his voice beneath the noise of the world. The noise has been loud lately, very loud. Opinions, fear, distractions, unexpected problems, emotional exhaustion, pressure from every direction, all of it competing for your attention, all of it demanding your focus. But beneath the noise, God has continued speaking, steadily, patiently, consistently. The message has not changed. The direction has not changed. The assignment has not changed. What is changing is your ability to recognize it. That is why things that once seemed confusing are beginning to make more sense. Connections are appearing. Patterns are becoming visible. Pieces are beginning to fit together, not all at once, but enough for you to realize that heaven has been moving with precision. Every delay had a purpose. Every detour carried a lesson. Every battle developed strength. Every disappointment refined discernment. Even the seasons that felt empty were accomplishing something. Even the silence was working. Even the waiting was working, especially the waiting. Because while you were waiting, God was preparing circumstances that had to be aligned before the next door could open. People had to be positioned. Timing had to mature. Conditions had to develop. Lessons had to be learned. Foundations had to be strengthened. And now, because so much preparation has already taken place, the next movement may happen faster than you expect, faster than logic predicts, faster than your previous experiences suggest. Because when heaven decides it is time, years of preparation can suddenly produce visible results. That is why you must remain alert, not fearful, not anxious. Alert. Because something important is emerging from beneath the surface. Something that has been forming quietly. Something connected to prayers you almost stopped praying. Something connected to promises you struggled to hold on to. Something connected to a future that is much closer than it appears. And the more clearly you see what God has been pointing toward, the more you will realize that the thing you nearly overlooked was never a small detail at all. It was a doorway. Not just a doorway to a new opportunity, not just a doorway to a better season, but a doorway into a different level of understanding, a different level of purpose, a different level of alignment with what heaven has been preparing for you all along. That is why the enemy worked so hard to keep your eyes somewhere else. Because a doorway only changes your life if you recognize it before you walk past it. Many people spend years praying for open doors, yet when the door appears, it rarely looks the way they imagined. It does not always arrive wrapped in certainty. It does not always arrive with guarantees. It does not always arrive with immediate evidence. Sometimes it arrives as a simple instruction, a quiet invitation, a persistent conviction, a step that requires trust before understanding. And that is where faith becomes essential, because faith often moves before all the answers are visible. Faith recognizes what logic cannot yet explain. Faith sees potential where others see inconvenience. Faith sees purpose where others see ordinary circumstances. And your faith is being stretched right now for a reason. Not to break you, not to discourage you, but to prepare you for what comes after the doorway. Because what is on the other side requires a version of you that trusts God more deeply than before. A version of you that is less dependent on appearances. A version of you that listens more carefully to His voice than to public opinion. That transformation has already begun. You may not fully realize it yet, but you are not the same person you were a year ago. The battles changed you. The waiting changed you. The disappointments changed you. The lessons changed you. The lessons changed you. The nights of prayer changed you. The seasons of silence changed you. You have been shaped by experiences that others never saw. Strength has been developing in hidden places. Wisdom has been forming beneath the surface. Discernment has been growing through every challenge. And now those hidden developments are becoming important, because the next season will require everything God has been building inside you. Nothing was wasted, not a single tear, not a single prayer, not a single moment of confusion. Even the experiences you wished had never happened are being woven into a greater purpose. That truth becomes easier to see when you stop focusing only on what was lost. Because heaven has been preparing gains that you have not yet measured. There are blessings that have not arrived yet, connections that have not been revealed yet, answers that have not become visible yet, opportunities that have not fully emerged yet. And because they remain unseen, it is easy to underestimate how much is actually changing. But unseen does not mean inactive. Hidden does not mean absent. Delayed does not mean denied. In fact, some of God's greatest works happen in hidden places. Roots develop underground long before fruit appears above the surface. Foundations are built before structures rise. Preparation happens before manifestation. And heaven has been focused on preparation far longer than you realize. There were moments when you thought nothing was happening, moments when you wondered whether progress had stopped, moments when you questioned whether your prayers were reaching heaven at all. Yet while you were questioning, God was arranging. While you were waiting, God was positioning. While you were wanting, God was positioning. While you were wondering, God was preparing. And now there are signs that preparation is approaching completion. Subtle signs, easy to miss signs. The kind of signs many people overlook because they are looking for something dramatic. But heaven often whispers before it shouts. It reveals before it announces. It confirms before it manifests. That is why your attention matters so much right now. The details matter. The repeated impressions matter. The unexpected connections matter. The recurring themes matter. The recurring themes matter. Because God is a God of purpose, and purpose leaves patterns. The more carefully you observe this season, the more patterns you will begin to recognize. Events that once seemed unrelated suddenly connect. Moments that felt random suddenly make sense. Experiences that felt confusing suddenly reveal their purpose. And with every new realization, your confidence grows, not confidence in yourself alone. Confidence in the God who has been guiding your path the entire time. A confidence that cannot be shaken by delays. A confidence that cannot be destroyed by setbacks. A confidence that understands that even when circumstances look uncertain, heaven remains in control. That confidence is important because where God is leading you next will require courage. Not reckless courage, not human confidence, but the courage that comes from knowing who is directing your steps. The courage to move when others hesitate. The courage to trust when others doubt. The courage to obey when others question. Because the doorway in front of you is not appearing by accident. It is connected to timing, divine timing. And divine timing operates differently than human timing. It arrives when preparation and purpose meet. It arrives when growth and opportunity intersect. It arrives when heaven knows you are ready for what comes next, which means the very thing you thought was taking too long may have been arriving at exactly the right moment. And if that is true, then what is beginning to unfold now carries far greater significance than you have allowed yourself to imagine. Because this doorway is not the destination, it is only the entrance to what heaven has been building toward all along. And what waits beyond it is larger, deeper, and more life-changing than anything you have seen so far. And this is the final revelation. The thing you were about to overlook was never just a moment. It was a message. It was never just a circumstance. It was an invitation. It was never just a small detail. It was a divine signal pointing toward your next season. All this time you thought heaven was silent, but heaven was speaking. You thought God was delaying, but God was positioning. You thought nothing was changing, but everything was being arranged behind the scenes. That is why this message found you today, because God did not want you to miss what He was placing before you. The waiting was not wasted, the pain was not wasted, the confusion was not wasted, the setbacks were not wasted. Every step has brought you closer to this moment of recognition. And now you know. You know that God has been moving. You know that God has been guiding. You know that God has been guiding. You know that God has been preparing a path even when you could not see it. So do not walk away from this season with fear. Walk away with awareness. Walk away with expectation. Walk away with confidence that the same God who carried you through every battle will also lead you into every promise He has prepared. The breakthrough is not arriving by accident. The opportunity is not appearing by accident. The doorway is not opening by accident. God is intentional, and if He brought you this far, He is not about to abandon His plan now. If this message confirmed what your spirit has been sensing, comment "I want overlook it" below. And if you believe God is leading you into a season of greater clarity and purpose, like this video, subscribe to Born into Light, and share this message with someone who needs this encouragement today. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Thank you for every person listening to this message. Open their spiritual eyes to recognize what you are placing before them. Remove every distraction, every fear, and every voice that tries to pull them away from your direction. Give them wisdom where they need wisdom. Give them courage where they need courage. Give them peace where they need peace. Help them trust your timing even when they cannot see the full picture. Lead them to every divine appointment you have prepared. Protect them from overlooking what you are revealing, and remind them that your plans for their lives are still unfolding according to your perfect purpose. In Jesus' name, Amen. Remember this: what God has for you does not need to be forced. What God has prepared for you will arrive in His timing. Stay alert, stay faithful, stay obedient, because the very thing that could change everything may already be closer than you think, and heaven is making sure you see it.